for your truck.
Yeah, I just texted you and said I was in that white Passat.
Oh.
Wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, I got you.
We're gonna be live, Glenn, on Facebook.
Holy cow.
Holy cow. Actually, we are live. There he is.
Wonderful.
So we thought we'd take this opportunity of just driving through large amounts of cornfields to pick the brain of the weightlifting genius, Glenn Pendlay. That guy
Not
right
sure
there.
if I'd say genius, but
So wrote down some questions because you slackers didn't give me anything last night or today. You liked my post, but refused to give me any questions. So
people are like that.
yeah, people are like that. You're like that. So first off, just give us a bio of who you are, where you're from, maybe list some accomplishments.
Glenn Pendlay. I am from Kansas. I've lived in Texas for a large part of my life. I started coaching weightlifting in the 90s. I first took the USA courses, coaching courses in 95. I think by that time I'd already coached several lifters. Then I coached in Texas for like 20 years. I should put my seatbelt on. It's dinging.
Yeah.
And coached mainly a school-age team, collegiate team, stuff like that. I think I was pretty successful doing that. The collegiate team I coached won collegiate nationals like 7 or 8 years in a row. The junior team I coached won junior nationals 3 years in a row. The school-age team I coached won school-age nationals a whole bunch of years. So I think I did fairly good with the younger kids. Then I went to California and coached Cal Strength for a while, and that's probably where most people know me from. I coached guys like Donnie Schenkel, John North, Spencer Mormon, Rob Blackwell, et cetera, who all either were good or became good. Then I moved to South Carolina at Muscle Driver, and that all kind of ended badly with Muscle Driver. And I'm back in Kansas, where I was born. So that's a short bio.
And your barbell club is called Mac Barbell?
Mac Barbell Club.
And that's
short for McPherson.
McPherson.
I'd have a dog named Mac also, but it's not. Barbell Club is not named after Mac, the dog. It's short for McPherson, which is the town I grew up in.
Which is an awesome pit bull, by the way.
Yeah, he's a nice dog. Old, nice dog, but nice dog nonetheless.
So I have one question. I kind of broke these up into different categories. The one being from the perspective of the athlete. What are the most important characteristics that you have observed in top performing athletes?
Gosh, out of the blue, I'm trying to think. The one that I think is really has to be there if you're going to develop into a great weightlifter is somewhat of a perfectionist. You have to be. I think people that I've coached that have been like that have become very, very good. Some people, it seems like their mental bias is just like they want to get the weight up, they don't care how they get it up. That's never going to result in good motor patterns. If you are a little bit like Caleb Ward, who is someone I talked to Mark about yesterday, he would beat himself up every day if he did one lift wrong. I mean, I don't think you should beat yourself up, but at the same time, you have to really be a perfectionist in your movement. That helps a ton. The other thing is just be athletic and strong. Of course, we all are working towards that. It doesn't ever hurt to have a natural inclination towards that, though.
So, as an athlete, what's the most important thing that an athlete can do every day, dialing it down even more for personal development?
Eat enough.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people don't do that.
Agreed.
I think a lot of people that have come into weightlifting lately after the CrossFit boom are really, really worried about their Fran time and other stuff like that. It's body weight. and a lot of them did not eat enough to build muscle. And so we have a whole new generation of lifters that have come into the sport lately who can't squat well. And you simply have to get your squat up if you're a weightlifter. You cannot do a big clean and jerk without a big squat. I think that has been almost glossed over by a lot of people because they're not doing the things they need to do to build the big squat. One of those is eating enough.
Nice.
You just have to eat enough.
More eggs and bacon. So from the coach's perspective, who was the hardest athlete for you to coach? Were you successful in reaching your goals with them? And then what did you learn from that experience?
Gosh, the hardest people that I've coached have been the three that I would pick out immediately out of the 5 or 6 guys that I've coached that have made it really far in weightlifting. Donnie Schenkel, for one, who I think a lot of people know because he's become pretty well known in the sport.
Yeah.
He was super hard to coach because he is stubborn as a mule. He is stubborn as a mule. He makes that work. I mean, in a way, it's good because he doesn't accept defeat easily. But in a way, that's bad because we had fights, huge fights. I'm surprised he never came to blows. I really am. I kicked him out of the gym several times.
Woo!
And he, at one point, was kicked out of the gym for over a month.
Whoa.
So we had some knockdown, drag-out fights not in a physical sense, but we got very upset at each other. We both felt strongly that our position was correct. He's just a very stubborn guy, and he's not going to admit that he's wrong. And so we had some fights, but I like Donnie. I think of all the lifters I've coached, it's hard to pick a favorite, but yet Donnie is probably my best friend that I've ever had in weightlifting.
Oh, that's awesome.
I coached him for over 10 years, and I started coaching him before he turned 21, right out of the Marine Corps, and continued on through a lot of rough times. Continued on with him quitting his sport a couple times, coming back to the sport, actually him quitting at one point, that's how he got out to Call Strength, is he quit the sport, was working a job in Colorado, after he got kicked out of the training center, Colorado Springs, and he was working a full-time job, stopped weightlifting. And I actually called him at one point and encouraged him to go out to Cal Strength when Abujayev went out there, and was able to convince him to pick up the sport again and go out there and try it.
Wow. And
that led to him winning several more national titles and more world team member spots and stuff like that.
So you're obviously successful with him, for sure.
Yeah, in a way. I would say that I have mixed feelings about my success with Donnie, or his success, because I think that people only saw a fraction of what he was capable of physically. He's a very strong guy. He has a ton of genetic talent. A very strong guy. And he did not ever total near what he was capable of.
Wow.
Near.
And he was a freak. Unbelievably strong already.
But when I talk about guys like Donnie, what I wanted for them was far beyond what they actually achieved, and that's the reason I kind of have mixed feelings about it, because I saw him at the capability of making multiple Olympic teams and really erasing all the American records. Wow. He definitely was capable of that. Wow. He never achieved that, but he did want things his way, and that's the way he's going to do it. And I feel like I had less influence on him than I could have, than I wish I would have had. He simply could not back off ever to a fault. He had to train hard and heavy continually. He did that to a fault every workout of his life. He could not back off, and that's what gave him injuries that eventually marked the end of his competitive career.
But made great YouTube videos.
Probably so.
They made great YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from that whole experience? And
if a lifter is going to be successful, they have to listen sometimes. There's sometimes they have to listen. And yeah, exactly, be coachable.
Yeah.
Some people aren't. Donnie is a great guy. I consider him probably my best friend I've ever made in weightlifting. You know, I mean, we agree with each other on like 99% of things, I consider him a great friend, but yet he wasn't the most coachable athlete I've ever had. Like I said, he's a great guy, but not as coachable as he could have been. And if he reads it or hears this, I mean, he's probably going to say, "What are you talking about?" And I know that. I know that Donnie doesn't see it the way I see it, but he has his perspective. I have mine, and I think Donnie could have done far more than he did.
Awesome. What are some things that you've changed your mind about? I mean, you've been in the sport for decades now. What are some things that you started off implementing or you believed?
I've partially changed my mind about the deadlift.
Oh, cool.
I really, really felt strongly that the deadlift was not worthwhile to do for lifters.
Mm-hmm.
I still believe squat is way more important than the deadlift. That will never change, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind or most people's minds. Squat certainly is better at predicting your total than deadlift. Deadlift is next to useless in predicting your total. So no one's ever going to say you got to deadlift 80% of your clean and jerk.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or clean and jerk 80% of your deadlift. That's what I said. Because lifters do the double knee bend, and that turns the top part of the pole into a squat, basically.
Yeah.
And so, because of that, the squat's always going to relate more to the lifts than deadlift will. But the deadlift does have its uses. And I used to be very adamantly against deadlift. I'm kind of softening that now, and I actually program it. So I've changed on that. 20 years ago, I never programmed the deadlift.
Yeah.
Over the last 5 years, maybe 10 years, I've slowly softened my stance a little bit. I still don't believe it's as important as a squat, but I know that it has its value.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the values of the deadlift is just mental. If the weight feels light coming off the floor, it feels you feel capable of lifting it. When you start to pull, you're much more likely to go under it. So from a mental perspective, the deadlift has its uses.
Where would you program deadlifts in your weekly cycle?
Saturdays.
Because that's your normal heavy squat day as well.
For me, Saturday is when we do the heavy strength work.
Mm-hmm.
We do high volume strength work on Tuesday or Wednesday. I usually have my intermediate lifters do 3 sets of 5 on deadlift on Tuesday, and then a single set of 5, max set of 5 on Saturday.
Cool. In your mind, what's the most important thing a coach can do for their athlete?
Get them stronger. Well, as we talked about in the certification.
Yeah, if you missed the cert, bad on you.
As we talked about that, there's only 2 real uses for a coach. That's to help do 2 things: get actually stronger and develop good motor patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And so strength is half the sport. You won't win a gold medal or win any other medal without strength. That's a very important part of the sport. And one that weightlifters historically, I think, in America anyways, in USA, kind of don't approach with the same fervor that we do technical stuff. So I feel like a lot of lifters think we're weightlifters, or coaches think we're weightlifters. We don't have to worry about the strength. They tend to go on programs that are, you work and they're geared towards Europeans that might be using certain substances that we can't use, and they work because they're doing things like that. Getting strength, getting strength in a drug-free lifter is hard. It requires very exact programming, and there's really no way to do that without basing this week's squats off last week's squats.
So progression based, instead of percentage based.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel pretty strong about that. You have to use progression in your strength work, based every week, every workout, depending on your stage of training, off of last week or last workout. It's the only way to be precise enough to continually have adaptation. But I feel like the way we as American lifters and coaches do and program the strength lifts could use some changing and some advancing.
Awesome. So, looking at going into the movement patterns, what's the Pendlay method of proper progressions for the snatch and clean and jerk?
Progressions is in stages of the lift.
Stages of the lift. Like, how would you program from a beginner?
Each week, when you're in a beginner, we do 1 day of the week from the floor, 1 day of the week from the knee, and 1 day of the week from hip. I feel like that's the way we learn the lifts. In my system, that's the way I teach the lifts. And there's no clear stopping point to learning. Learning goes on as long as you lift. And so I tend to program that way too. So we have a certain amount of lifts from the knee, a certain amount of lifts from the hip, a certain amount of lifts from the floor. You should always be attempting to progress in your technique from all 3 steps. And that's how we do program the lifts.
So, as I know we talked about this in our cert yesterday, which was the first Pendlay Level 1 cert in the United States.
Yes, it was.
Fantastic, and it went great. What exercise, like supplementary or accessory exercise, would you consider best for developing strength in the snatch and clean and jerk? And number 2, in developing proper motor patterning in the snatch and clean and jerk?
For strength, it has to be a squat, squat or front squat. For motor patterns, it would have to be the snatch and clean and jerk. I mean, I'm very, very strong. I feel very strongly about the fact that you have to snatch and clean and jerk all the time. I have to have a ton of reps in the snatch and clean and jerk. I don't think there's any substitute for that. And it's boring sometimes, but you got to do it.
And I know that we went over some basic things like isometric patternings and holding positions. You feel that that's a big thing in developing.
Once you're past beginner stages, to be for more advanced lifters, isometric holds become pretty useful. Isometrics have been the fastest way to increase strength. It's ever been studied. There's been a lot of studies in the USA done on isometrics, and they've proven the fastest way you can gain strength. Way faster than normal lifting. But intensity is everything in that, and they suck, as you know. They hurt, they suck.
Awesome.
Yeah. They're not fun, but they are result producing. They will make you stronger. And they're very good for weightlifting because, unlike football, which you can be in any unlimited number of positions in football, but in weightlifting, the bar starts at the floor and comes up to the chest or the arms overhead. During that point, there are several points in the pull where the lift is going to be the heaviest, where your strength is lacking. Most people feel that right off the floor is the hardest point, or they feel right below the knee is the hardest point. So it's very good for isometrics to do a hold in both those positions, which that will very quickly increase your strength in that particular position.
And I know we talked yesterday about different percentages that you've experimented with, different times, length of time in those holds, and you spoke plainly about the fact that 10 seconds at a certain position is what you found to be the most productive amount of time holding that weight at.
Well, it's kind of tough to say because it's not like I've extensively studied several different times. I have done 10 seconds at a hold for a long time now. I have convinced myself through trying 20, 30, 40 seconds that that's very inferior to 10 seconds. Because 10 seconds you can go much heavier. As soon as you get beyond 10 seconds, you have to decrease the weight a lot. And I feel like intensity is king on isometrics. Anything beyond 10 seconds is too light. But at the same time, you have to be progressive about it. If you do a 110 kilo hold off the floor this week, got to go 112 or 150 kilos next week. You can't just keep doing the same thing. You can't skip around. It has to be very progressive. So you get heavier every week.
And it needs to be above your current max at that movement.
Yes.
Yeah.
In my opinion, yes.
Sweet. So let's move into American weightlifting and the status of such. So lots of things have happened in the community since really probably the onset of CrossFit and bringing so many new lifters into the sport.
It's great, isn't it?
It's amazing.
It's wonderful.
So would you say you're hopeful moving forward with our dominance on the world stage? And if you are hopeful, what are things that the community can do to get that here quicker? Eat more?
I'll eat more.
Eat more.
Eat more is never bad. I am hopeful. If I wasn't hopeful, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
Because I really want us to be back on top, a gold medal at some point. But I am hopeful that will happen. People like CJ Cummings really, really make me believe that can happen. I think that's the tip of the iceberg. We have, I believe firmly, the best genetic talent in the world. I think if we could harness the amount of talent in this country to the sport, we would rule the world. And I think we're on our way to doing that. I think CrossFit has opened up that door immensely. And I'm always kind of taken aback by CrossFit people, their comments about, you must not like CrossFit. So I just taught a level 1 USAW cert last weekend, and we're like 18 or 20 people there, and like 4 or 5 of them, maybe 6, were from a CrossFit box. I always start to call it a CrossFit gym, but they call it a box, so a CrossFit box. All of them, I said several comments about CrossFit during the cert, and they all said, you must really not like CrossFit. And I was like, no, give that idea. So I love CrossFit, but I see weaknesses in CrossFit. I see things that they could do better, things that they could help weightlifting more if they did. I think that I am pretty much, there's other people that hold the same opinion, but even though CrossFit's not perfect, they're great. They're wonderful. They've been so positive for weightlifting, it's not even funny. I think weightlifting would have largely, it could be at the point of almost dying now, if it wasn't for CrossFit.
Yeah, I agree.
We weren't doing anything to help ourselves.
No.
You know, the USAW was not doing the job.
No.
So CrossFit kind of was able to step in and do it for us.
Yeah.
And they've done a great job. That's a huge benefit to weightlifting. But they do, I think, have things that are weaknesses within the CrossFit movement, and that could be better. That doesn't mean I don't like CrossFit. CrossFit is great. But what they've done for weightlifting is great.
Looking at the USAW and the weightlifting community, what do you think they can do as an organization to solidify their growth and their growth potential into the future?
You know, that's a hard question, because the USAW is an old organization, and the old never ever gets along with the new. That's just truism.
Yep.
You know, so CrossFit has brought all these new coaches in, which is a great thing. They've, I think, started out being bad coaches, and they're quickly learning to be good coaches. I think the rise in coaching in the USAW is largely due to CrossFit. And I think that, like, when I started doing certs at CrossFit boxes in maybe 2008 or 9, 7 maybe, a lot of the coaches were horrendously bad. But they have gotten better at an astounding rate, toward the point now that I think a lot of the best coaches in weightlifting are from CrossFit.
Yeah.
They've gotten better at a crazy rate. And so they're vastly getting to be the good point of weightlifting coaches. But still, the culture within the USIW is always going to be suspicious towards the new people on the block, new kid in town, basically. That's not going to go away, because it's inherent in the positions that the older guys that say, even older from a standpoint of being 50, 60 years old, they're not going to like the 20-year-olds, you know? So there's always going to be a little friction between the two groups. I think we're just going to have to learn to live with it. I feel like when I was the new kid in town, a young 30-year-old coach or 25-year-old coach, I was a new guy. I know what it feels like. And now I kind of know what it feels like to be an old guy, because now my time in weightlifting has been, is such now that I look at the CrossFit coaches that are 20 years old as the new guys. And they look at me probably as one of the old guard.
Yeah.
And so I know from both perspectives, and I don't think there's any cure for that, but I do think that we could learn to get along a little better. Like the old guys could be, you know, it's obvious we need the new blood. It's obvious we need new ideas.
Yeah.
And obviously the people that are new are going to be pushing for change. People that are older are going to be, so we need to go back to how it was last year, you know. There's always going to be some friction. That's understandable, even positive. I don't think anybody in weightlifting wants to lose the tradition. So we don't want to walk away from everything that's old. We want to keep traditions alive. And when something has worked for last generation, there was a reason.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a great thing to walk away from all of the ways that we used to do it. So there's always going to be friction because of that.
As an organization, though, is there a way that you think that USAW as a team or as an organization can help support and bolster the USAW barbell clubs that are associated with them? I mean, CrossFit's done a really good job in developing the affiliate model and things like that. Is there a way that USAW can maybe not mirror that per se, but
I think that future growth in USAW is largely going to be within CrossFit. Because right now, you have a gym that is an actual barbell club that is like an old iron barbell club, you know? But that's pretty rare in the USA. It's pretty rare. Almost, I'd say, more than 90% of everyone who lifts weights now does it at a CrossFit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everywhere. And so, most lifters are going to be associated with the CrossFit Club.
Yeah.
So, I think the USAW could figure out a less friction
Join forces almost.
Yeah, just a less friction-filled relationship with CrossFit.
Yeah.
That is going to require, because they're the future.
Yeah.
They're the future.
Yeah.
That's going to require a lot of people, older folks like me, to say we need to be more welcoming and accept that things are changing.
Yeah.
Accept that is a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah.
At least not always.
Yeah. So, more about you. What would you consider your greatest personal success? It's kind of open-ended there.
Coaching a lot of national champions.
Yeah.
The reason I say is because I think anybody can get lucky and have the right freak athlete walk into their gym and do a great job and coach them up to a great level. That's just sheer luck. But the coaches I think that are good, that are actually good, making a big difference, are the ones that can go and coach all the kids that wouldn't have been national champions into a national champion. It's the coach that continually produces, not just one very gifted lifter, but all the ordinary lifters that weren't blessed from birth into a national champion.
Yeah.
That's what really is the mark of a good coach. So I feel that my thing that I'm most proud of is that I haven't only had guys like Donnie Shankle or Spencer Mormon, who were Super Mormon and Donnie Shankle both were, they were born national champions.
Incredible. Yeah.
I didn't create them. They were born with this amount of stubbornness and amount of strength and just genetic gifts to be national champions. That's God-given talent, and I might have helped them out along the way, but I'm not responsible for them.
Yeah.
But I feel like the fact that I had all those other kids that weren't genetic freaks, become good.
Yeah.
I think that says more about a good coach, including me,
The small successes.
than the single guys that were huge animals,
Exactly. So, what's something that most people might not know about you? Hobbies, things you're good at that besides weightlifting?
I'm a physics freak.
Yeah.
I love physics. I'm one of these weird guys in school that tutored physics. I have every paper that Einstein ever wrote. Feynman is like my hero. I love him. I've read all of his books. I've read all his papers that he ever wrote. So that's one of my biggest hobbies outside of weightlifting, or anything to do with weightlifting, that I really like, is physics.
See, I knew you were a weightlifting genius. So one exercise to a deserted island, what would it be?
Squat.
There you go. What are you working on now, and where can people go to find you and get to your seminars, buy your books? You just wrote a book recently.
Well, I have one that's out now, and it's West Side for Weightlifting. But I am finishing American Weightlifting, which is going to be West Side for Weightlifting is a very short, like 70, 80 page book. American Weightlifting is going to be, I don't know the number of pages, but it's probably going to be near 400. It's a much more complete book than West Side book. I think people are like that, and you can get anything that I do, seminars, certifications, books, whatever, at stickthejerk.com. No spaces or lines, just stickthejerk.com.
And where will you be next? Or do you know?
I think that I will be I'm actually doing a certification in McPherson, Kansas, my hometown, which is the first time I've ever done a Pendlay cert in McPherson.
Cool.
Very small town in Kansas. I am going to England after that for a 4 seminar, 2 week before seminar space. That we're going to 4 different towns in England for certifications and seminars. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've been to Ireland and Scotland, but never England.
Awesome.
I've flown through Heathrow, but never actually been on the ground.
Cool. Well, England, get on stickthejerk.com and sign up for that cert. It's well worth your time, and we had a great time at the...
You have a huge English listener base.
Yes,
Good.
Huge.
I'm glad.
Huge
we
English.
need to get the word out.
Huge English listener base across the pond. Well, thank you so much for doing this for us, and thank you for coming to Little Lebanon, Ohio, and
No problem.
and kicking things off.
It was fun.
And thanks for watching. See you guys.